husband in bed with a beautiful young woman. Furious, she screamed, "You're a pig! A dishonorable pig! How could you do this to me, your faithful wife?" As she turned to leave, her husband called out, "Wait! Let me explain." "Fine," she snapped, "but make it quick. Those will be your last words to me." "Okay," he began. "While driving home, I saw this young woman on the side of the road. She looked tired and hungry, so I brought her here. I gave her a meal from that roast beef you said was too fattening. Her sandals were falling apart, so I gave her a pair of yours that you stopped wearing because they're out of style. She was cold, so I gave her the sweater I bought you for your birthday, the one you don't wear because it doesn't suit you. Her pants were torn, so I offered her a pair of yours that you loved until your sister bought the same ones. Then, as she was about to leave, she turned to me and asked, 'Is there anything else your wife doesn't use anymore?'" Bill worked at a pickle factory and had been there for years when he came home one day with a confession for his wife. "I've got this strange compulsion," he admitted. "I feel an uncontrollable urge to stick my, private part into the pickle slicer." His wife was horrified. "That's insane! You need to see a therapist." "I can't," Bill said, embarrassed. "I'll handle it myself." Weeks later, Bill came home looking pale and shaken. His wife immediately knew something was wrong. "Bill, what happened?" she asked. "Remember that urge I told you about?" he said quietly. Her eyes widened. "Oh no, Bill, you didn't." "I did," he admitted. "My God, Bill! Are you okay? What happened?" "I got fired," he said. "No, Bill. I mean, what happened with the pickle slicer?" Bill shrugged. "Oh, she got fired too." A married man decided to work late so he could spend time with his young secretary. He called his wife, making up an excuse, and after work, took the secretary to dinner. One thing led to another, and they ended up at her apartment, where they spent 2 passionate hours together. Later, as he cleaned up in her bathroom, he noticed a massive hickey on his neck. Panic set in. How would he explain this to his wife? When he got home, his dog ran up to greet him, wagging its tail. Inspiration struck. He dropped to the floor, pretending to wrestle with the dog, and called out, "Honey, look at this!" The dog got so excited he bit me on the neck. His wife raised an eyebrow, then calmly ripped open her blouse. "That's nothing," she said. "Look what he did to my breasts." A woman visited a psychiatrist, troubled about her life. The doctor asked her a series of questions, but struggled to pinpoint the issue. Finally, he asked, "Do you ever watch your husband's face during intimacy?" "Well, yes, I did once," she admitted. "And how did he look?" the psychiatrist asked, leaning forward. "Angry," she said. Now the psychiatrist felt he was onto something. "Interesting. We should explore that. You've only seen his face once during lovemaking? That's unusual? What happened that time?" She sighed. "He was watching us through the window." A mother-in-law came home from shopping to find her son-in-law, Pete, in a furious rage, hastily packing his suitcase. "What's wrong, Pete?" she asked, alarmed. "I'll tell you what's wrong," Pete fumed. "I sent an email to Joan letting her know I'd be home early from my fishing trip. But when I walked in the door, I found her in our bed, naked with Tim McDermott. This is unforgivable. I'm done with this marriage. I'm leaving for good." Now, Pete, calm down," said his mother-in-law. "There must be some misunderstanding. Jean would never do such a thing. Let me go talk to her and get to the bottom of this." A few minutes later, she returned, beaming. "There, Pete, you see? I told you there'd be a simple explanation." Pete glared at her. "Well, what is it?" The mother-in-law smiled. She never got your email. One day, a husband came home from work and his wife greeted him at the door. "Honey," she said, "the pipe in the upstairs bathroom is leaking. Could you fix it?" He frowned. "What do I look like, a plumber?" A few days later, she said, "Honey, my car won't start." "I think it needs a new battery. Can you change it for me?" He rolled his eyes. "What do I look like, a mechanic?" Another few days passed, and during a heavy rainstorm, the wife found a leak in the roof. "Honey, there's a leak in the roof. Can you please fix it?" He groaned. "What do I look like, Bob Vila?" The next day, he came home to find everything fixed, the plumbing, the car, and the roof. Impressed, he asked, "Wow, what happened?" "Oh," she said, "I hired a handyman. He said he'd fix everything for free if I either baked him a cake or slept with him." "Cheeky guy," said the husband. "So, what kind of cake did you bake?" The wife smirked. "What do I look like, Betty Crocker?" A man traveled to Chicago for a big convention and decided to bring his wife along. When they arrived at their hotel, the man said, "You relax here while I go register. I'll be back in an hour." His wife lay down on the bed to rest, but suddenly an elevated train passed by so close to the window that the whole room shook and she was thrown to the floor. Thinking it was a fluke, she climbed back into bed, but minutes later another train came by, shaking the room so violently that she was thrown out of bed again. Frustrated, she called the front desk and demanded to speak to the manager. When he arrived, she insisted, "You won't believe me, but every time a train passes, I'm thrown out of bed." Skeptical, the manager replied, "That sounds unlikely." "See for yourself," she said. "Lie down on the bed and you'll understand." Reluctantly, the manager lay down on the bed to test her claim, just as the husband walked back into the room. The husband froze, glaring at the scene. "What," he growled, "is going on here?" The manager stammered, "Would you believe I'm waiting for a train?" A young girl working on a school paper asked her father, "Dad, what's the difference between anger and exasperation?" Her father replied, "It's mostly a matter of degree. Let me show you." He picked up the phone, dialed a random number, and when a man answered, he asked, "Hello, is Melvin there?" The man replied curtly, "There's no one named Melvin here. Learn to dial properly," and hung up. The father turned to his daughter. "See, that was annoyance. Now let's see what anger looks like." He dialed the same number again. "Hello, is Melvin there?" The man exploded. "Look, buddy, I told you there's no Melvin here. Stop wasting my time." He slammed the phone down. The father smiled at his daughter. "That was anger. Now, I'll show you what exasperation looks like." He dialed the number once more. When the man answered with a furious, "What?" Зрение отец спокойно сказал, "Привет, это Melvin. Any messages for me?" Mandy nervously asks her mother, Nina, for a few minutes to have a serious conversation. Concerned, Nina stops what she's doing and makes them both coffee. They sit down, with Mandy looking anxious. "What's going on, sweetie?" her mother asks. "You know you can tell me anything." Mandy forces a weak smile. "Well, you might judge me for this, and please don't tell Dad." "What is it?" her mother demands. "Do you know Jeremy, the neighbor I study with?" "Yes," Nina replies cautiously. "And his dad, Ronald?" Nina's concern deepens. "Uh-huh. I think I'm in love with him," Mandy blurts out. Her mother is stunned. "I won't allow it." "Mom, you can't tell me who to love," Mandy protests. "He could be your father." Nina shouts, "I don't care about the age difference. Mandy snaps back. Nina sighs deeply. I think you misunderstood me. There was once a Viking warrior who became so powerful that he sought out a new challenge. He sailed across Europe, challenging people to staring contests. So confident in his skills, he promised to hand over all of his gold to anyone who could defeat him. The news spread far and wide, eventually reaching a couple in Ireland. Their daughter had been born without eyelids, and they believed she was guaranteed to win a staring contest. Excited, they sent a messenger to invite the Viking to Ireland for the challenge. The Viking accepted and sailed to Ireland the very next day. Upon arrival, he faced off against the daughter in an epic staring contest. Hours turned into days, and nearly a week passed. The Viking kept his eyes wide open without blinking, while the daughter grew more and more exhausted. Finally, after days of intense focus, the girl forfeited, losing by default. The parents were utterly confused. The wife turned to her husband and said, "How could he keep his eyes open for so long, especially against someone with no eyelids?" The husband shrugged and replied, "You can lead a Norse to daughter, but you can't make him blink." Sarah's parents were eager to meet her new boyfriend. At 28, it was the first time Sarah had introduced a man to them. Her mother had spent all day cooking while her father cleaned the house and mowed the lawn. Both were dressed in their best clothes, eagerly awaiting her arrival. At 8 p.m., the doorbell rang. Sarah stood at the door with a huge man beside her, covered in tattoos, his face marked by scars from what seemed like every fight he'd ever been in. He looked like someone who made a living beating people up. After a few awkward greetings, Sarah's parents led her and her boyfriend to the kitchen. Her mother, still in shock, asked, "What the heck, Sarah? Why would you date a guy like that?" "He looks like a thug." Sarah rolled her eyes. "You've got him all wrong," she replied. "He's incredibly nice and charitable." Her father raised an eyebrow. "What makes you say that?" "Well," Sarah said, "just this month, he spent 200 hours serving his community." A stingy old lawyer diagnosed with a terminal illness was determined to prove the old saying wrong. You can't take it with you. After much thought, he came up with a plan. He instructed his wife to go to the bank and withdraw enough money to fill 2 pillowcases. Then, he asked her to take the bags of cash up to the attic and leave them directly above his bed. His idea was that when he passed away, he'd reach out and grab the money on his way to heaven. Weeks after the funeral, the wife was up in the attic, cleaning, and came across the forgotten pillowcases stuffed with cash. She sighed and muttered, "That old fool. I told him he should have had me put the money in the basement." It was the 1930s, and a wealthy banker and his wife were dining at an upscale restaurant when a stunning young woman walked over to their table. She gave the husband a big kiss, said she'd see him later, and walked away. His wife, glaring at him, asked, "Who the heck was that?" The husband, looking sheepish, replied, "Oh, she's just my mistress." "Well, that's the last straw," the wife exclaimed. "I want a divorce." The husband sighed. "I can understand that, but remember, if we get a divorce, there will be no more shopping trips to Paris, no more wintering in Barbados, no more summers in Tuscany, no more expensive cars in the garage, and no more yacht club memberships. But the choice is yours." At that moment, a mutual friend walked into the restaurant with a beautiful woman on his arm. "Who's that woman with Jim?" the wife asked. "That's his mistress," replied her husband. The wife huffed,